Welcome to part 3 of what makes a great horror game. In the previous video, we looked at the first two main factors I believe helped make a great horror game, that being isolation and vulnerability. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend doing so as it will make the rest of these videos make a lot more sense. In this video, we'll be looking at factors 3 and 4, logical reasoning and suspense. Let's dive right in. So, logical reasoning. If the character acts like an idiot, I can't immerse myself in a game as I don't feel like I'm in the game. That isn't to say I don't think I'm not an idiot. I most certainly am. But I'm also a very logical idiot. When I play survival games, if I don't feel like the character's making the logical choice and instead makes the dumbest possible choice, I don't feel like I'm in the game. Meaning I don't feel anything by the threats the game offers because they could have easily been avoided had the character just acted smart or logical or done the very simple common thing. In so many games, the situation is literally, "Hi, my name's generic horror game main character. I'm trained in several forms of self-defense, hit the gym every day, know how to use any gun I find, I'm in top physical condition, and I'm ranked #1 out of all my competitors. Unfortunately, I found myself trapped in insert horror situation right here, covered in blood and bullet casings. Do I A, try the exit, and if it's locked, try kicking or breaking down the door, which if that doesn't work, try breaking the nearest window that leads to the outside freedom, which if that doesn't work, use any of the many guns I'm carrying currently on my body to shoot off the locks of the door and then leave, and if that doesn't work, when I have no other choice, then I will carefully venture further into location X to try and find another exit while also being aware of my surroundings. Or do I forget about trying to break down the door and very casually go immediately down the dimly lit corridor covered in blood that leads further into location X that I can hear screams coming from and with several blind spots that anyone can jump out and severely injure me? I know, I'll choose choice B. I just can't take these games seriously when they do stuff like that. Outlast, on the other hand, everything Miles does is with the intent of getting out. Even though he's an investigative journalist, as soon as he realized just how out of his depths he was, his sole focus instantly became getting out of there. He never had the chance to escape, but instead chose to stay because, lol, gotta get that scoop, gotta get that headline, top line, risking my life for the paycheck, all that. No. Everything he does in the game was with the sole purpose of escaping. And every time he's pushed further away from that objective, he does everything he can to get back to that point. Which is why the game works so well and why I feel so invested in it. Even though you do everything right, you made the smart choices, you made the logical choices, you did everything you could to survive, you still failed. The bad guys still got you. And it wasn't because you ran around making noises or did anything to draw attention to yourself. You just got unlucky. And despite doing everything you could right, you lost. And that's why I love in games. I mean, it sucks when you lose, but if you did everything right and you still lost, it wasn't because the character was an idiot, it was because you got unlucky. You did everything you could right and you still lost. And I think not enough games do that. They either make you feel like an idiot and do the dumbest choice and then somehow miraculously, Deus Ex Machina, you survive. Oh no, I went down this corridor completely unprepared. Luckily there's a fully loaded submachine gun here. Oh, there's enemies, but don't worry, they're walking slow. Oh, and let's use the submachine gun. It's all gonna be fine. Or they just don't do that. I forget where I was going with that point. But yeah, if the game constantly makes the player have to choose clearly dumb choices, it can undermine the entire game. And yes, I understand games have limitations, and the whole idea of the game is to play it. So sometimes they have to make completely moronic choices to help stretch the game out that extra hour or however long it is. Games are meant to be an experience, and if you can just do the logical choices, it'll be over in about 10 minutes probably. I get that. But if I see an enemy run through a wooden door with an item I need and then lock the door behind them, the character's first response shouldn't be, well, I guess I have to go through a multi-hour long detour just to get to the location on the other side of this door that's 3 feet away. Here I go. No, it should be, before anything else, I'm going to try breaking down this door. And if the game has weapons in it, the very first response should always be, oh no, a locked door. Whatever will I do? And then proceed to pull out a gun and blast the lock off. Or just shoot the hinges off. Or if you're training a gun, just kick the goddamn door down. It's a wooden door. Just sometimes games make me so angry. There's so many situations in the game where if they just did the one, not even moronic thing, just one seemingly normal thing. Like, hey, do I jump down this giant pit or do I take the ladder? Let's cannonball! No, take the goddamn ladder! Anyway, yeah. Of course, there are several situations where logical reasoning goes out the window and doesn't diminish the game. Examples of these include Resident Evil 4 and just how quickly you realize you are way over your head. But you're also a special agent on a top secret government mission where you can't turn back, even if you wanted to. And if you did try and do that, you'd be killed for deserting the mission or in prison for the rest of your life. As well as that, the bridge is destroyed, so you can't even go back the way you came, so you have to find another pathway out. Of course, you could just call on your radio and ask for an evac. Why doesn't he do that? Oh, I guess he's on the mission, so yeah. Anyway, there's also Outlast 2, where your partner is kidnapped, and being a human, the human brain does the human thing of choosing love over logical reasoning, which so many things happen. So you try and save her instead of trying to get help, because love conquers all, right? Even though the player knows they're obviously in danger because it's a horror game, the character either has no reason to expect they're in danger, or no way of knowing how much danger they're in because they don't know they're just a form of media. Take Shaun of the Dead as a great example of this, where the character's first response to seeing a Z word is to come to the conclusion that she's just extremely drunk, as would most people in this world. If you were to see one person bite another person in the real world, realistically, what is your first response? It probably wouldn't be, oh my god, zombie. It would most likely, more likely, be A, that person is crazy. B, that person bites when they fight. C, that person is probably on bath soaps. Or D, that person is a cannibal. Or hell, that person is making a prank video for YouTube and it's all fake and I should just react for the whatever. God, we live in a weird world nowadays. The player, of course, knows I'm playing a horror game, therefore this is a threat. But the actual character only knows my car has broken down in the middle of the night and there's a light visible in the distance. Maybe I should go over there and see if I can get help. And you know what? Like E. The real reason, and sadly, probably the reason most of the real world would end up dying in these situations, it wouldn't be because the attack of the creature or whatever. It would be because instead of doing the logical thing, they would run headfirst into the danger with their cell phone, trying to get footage of whatever it was to get those views or whatever. Like, seriously, let's be honest. If the zombie apocalypse happened tomorrow, how many of the humanity would die because they just wanted to get that shot? Like, oh, let's get a selfie with the zombie, or bet I can outrun the zombie. Let's just walk really slow and see if they get close. And humanity would be screwed. Try not to get bitten challenge. Last person to get bitten survives. Humanity would be screwed if there was a zombie apocalypse. Everyone would try and get the fame out of it, and it would just cause so many more infected.
Guys,
I think we hop in and keep the rest of the stuff.
Keep one camera. This will get 1 billion views. Smosh Games versus actual zombies.
Anyway, what is horror without suspense? Horror games should always make you feel as if something could happen at any time. Nothing needs to happen, it just has to make the player feel as if something could happen. Dead Space is a game that absolutely nails this concept. However, I talk more about that in depth about Dead Space later, so I'll leave it till then. So instead, I'll just talk about Neverending Nightmares, which has this amazing sequence of multiple locked cell doors that you can look through, and you just know, like, anyone that's ever played a single horror game, you just know there's going to be a jump scare. Like, you look through this door and something's going to jump out of you, and you just know it. So you look through the first door, and nothing. Then you look through the second door. Oh, nothing. Okay. Right, they're building up. It'll be like the third door. Okay, right. So you look through the third door. and nothing. So you look for the 4th door, and still nothing. Okay, they're really building this up. So it's going to be the 5th door, right? There's going to be a jump scare on the 5th one. So you look for the 5th door, and there's still nothing. Huh. But then you look for the 6th door, and that's when the inmate runs across your screen. Which is great because it's built up so much, and you never know which one would be the scare. What's really amusing about all this though is checking the doors is a completely optional part of the game, where you can just walk right past it and never interact with it. Seriously, like, what is it about the human brain? Like, something about the human psyche compels us to do it. That could be a fun topic for another video, actually. But yeah, seriously, like, you just walk right past the doors, you never need to interact with them, and yet the player feels the need to look in every single one of these doors, even though they know there's going to be a goddamn jump scare. And that's what so many horror games get wrong, which is the threat is always a threat. Once again though, more on threats later. Using Neverending Nightmares as our example, how do games achieve this? The way the game achieves this constant feeling of constant suspense is that you as the player know you're playing a video game made by a team of people, or rather a single individual in this case, who intended to scare you. So you never feel completely safe because you know it's a horror game. And on a quick side note, if you haven't played Neverending Nightmares, I highly recommend it. It's about $15 on Steam. The Halloween Steam sales coming up. You can probably get it cheap, and it's a great game. I should recommend some other horror games considering the horror games sales. At the end of the series, I'll recommend some great horror games, so stay put for that. Once the sale's on, go check out those games. Anyway, it's about $15 on Steam. Wait for the Steam sale. It takes around 2 to 3 hours to beat, but it is a good 2 to 3 hours of some amazing horror. On top of that, the game developer has stated that the game is inspired and based on the real life events of what he went through with their depression and OCD. Seriously, it's a great game with multiple endings, and you're never sure which ending is real, so it's left up to the player to decide what was real and what wasn't. Anyway, back to the main point of how Neverending Nightmare leaves you constantly on edge. It's because of the uncertainty of any event. Now, this is a double-edged sword, that if implemented too little can lead to a very underwhelming game. However, if implemented too much can lead to a very disappointing game. But before we talk about that, let's discuss ways of using suspense. Of course, suspense by definition is the precursor to an actual event. The game can have suspense without the actual event though. I mean, technically the game can have the event without the suspense too, but I think that's classified as a jump scare, but more on that later. What do I actually call that? I guess it's technically a jump scare, yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, how can a game use suspense to keep the player on edge? Some simple tricks are the single lit door at the end of the corridor, the lights flickering for a few seconds, having an item you need at the end of a dead-end corridor, having sound effects beyond your field of vision, having creaking coming from the walls, having paintings fall off the walls, having a long dark corridor you have to walk through, or having the build up to a jump scare where it may or may not happen. These are just a few of the many used mechanics to place the player on edge when they are uncertain of what will happen. And any one of them could be a precursor to a scare. However, just as easily, they could not. It could be that the door is lit because that's the way to go and the game's guiding you there. However, it could also be because something is going to jump out at you. Unless it's chest burster. I mean, if it's chest burster, it will jump out at you, I guess. Or jump... I messed up this sentence. Let's redo that. It could be that the door is either lit because I've completely derailed here. Give me a second. It could be that the door is lit because it's the way you want to go. However, it could also be because something is going to jump out at you. The lights flickering for just a few seconds could just be the lights flickering for a few seconds. Or it could be something supernatural. The painting falling off the wall could have just been a painting falling. It's an old house. You're the first person to walk through there in 100 years or whatever. The gentle draft of you walking past was enough to cause the string holding it up to break. Or it could have been to get you to look back to show you that the pathway you just walked through is now covered in darkness and you can no longer see where you just came from. Why is this important? Building up suspense is important in any horror game, as regardless of whether there actually is a scare or not, after the build up, the adrenaline is already pumping through the player's vein, giving them that rush, which should be the main objective of the game, to give a player a memorable and enjoyable experience. Granted, very few scares are enjoyable, but you get what I mean, right? The fear that behind that door might be a chainsaw-wielding maniac who would chase you is exciting and enjoyable for the player, but it's also terrifying. Like, the enjoyment of fear. You get where I'm going with that, yeah? However, while the game can use suspense whenever it wants, there are a few things the game should avoid when doing so. While the game should always make you feel as if something could happen any time without having to actually deliver on it, it should never fall into the trap of attaching one event to a suspense event, to the point that you can either predict or know exactly what is going to happen, as it removes all suspense.
See? I don't even need to show you the end of this event. We know what's about to happen. I mean, if I show you it, will you be scared? Everyone knows what happens because this one event is tied to this scare. But is it still scary if you know what's going to happen? Maybe. Let's see. Should I do the jump scare? See, this is where you're actually scared because you don't know if I'm going to do it. Had I just played the footage and done the jump scare, yeah, you'd be like, ah, god damn it, that's annoying. There's a jumpy, scary bear in my face. But overall, probably wouldn't be that scared. You'd be like, okay, door gone up, lights turned off, Freddy eyes are flickering, screen's gone dark, and there's the jump scare. Okay, but the fact that I haven't done that, I'm sitting here going, do I do the jump scare now? You're thinking, do I edge back from my screen? Do I take my headphones off? Do I turn the music down? Is he going to jump scare me? That's my point. Connecting this to the scare, you know what's going to happen. It stops being effective. But I talk more about that later, so let's just move on to the next point, shall we? Also, as for the actual jump scare, it is going to happen. Just not right now. Look forward to that.
But once again, I go much more in depth on that later when I talk about Dead Space. So, when should a game use suspense and when shouldn't it? And how can a game always have you in suspense without burning itself out? As I said earlier, the game should always make you feel as if something could happen at any time without having to deliver on it. I repeated that enough times in this video because I think it's such a crucial point. The game should always make you feel as if something could happen. It doesn't have to happen, but it makes you feel as if it could happen. If the game always delivers on the threat, it would stop being effective, as you would know what was going to happen 5 or so seconds before it happened. However, if the game never delivers on the threats, you as the player quickly learn that there's actually no threat in the game, and they're just trying to scare you. Although, if it was me, I would be thinking right up to the very end of the game, okay, every suspenseful situation up to this point has turned out to be nothing. So clearly, the game is just trying to make me think there are no jump scares. So when it does actually happen, it'll be massively built up and I'll never suspect it. And it'll properly freak me out because I'm so certain there's no jump scares and then it will happen and I'll scream like a little girl. And then the game would end and I'd feel stupid because that never happened. Which is why having unknown factors in horror games makes the game so much more intense. And that's what we're talking about in the next part of this series. If you are enjoying this series, good, cool, fantastic. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Hitting that subscribe button guarantees that the video will appear in your subscription box as soon as it comes out. I also think you have to hit the bell or something. I don't know how the bell works. I feel like people have to press the bell. Hit the bell just in case, because something or other, like notify me of all stuff or something. I don't know. Help the channel grow if you like this content, because that will help me make more content in the future. Hitting like if you enjoyed it helps. If you think your friends will enjoy this video, share it with them. And leave a comment below talking about, I was going to say guessing what the next topic will be, but I've already mentioned it in this video, haven't I? There you go. What do I mean by unknown factors? Leave a comment below trying to figure out what I mean by that. It's pretty self-explanatory. I kind of don't want to treat you like you're stupid. I mean, it's October. What are you doing for Halloween? How about that? Yeah. What do I mean by unknown factors, and what are you doing for Halloween? Leave your comments below. I'm excited to read them. The next video is coming out in a few days, and yeah, we'll be covering unknown factors and the conclusion of why these 5 factors are so important. See you then.